Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently. I'm tired. I mean, Terry.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth. And it has been a long week of Sundance and very heavy movies. In the chat, we have Purpurina asking if festival movies tend to be heavy in general, and the answer is yes.
A lot of times it seems like it. Especially with, I would say, like, more high-profile festivals.
Yeah, it's like,
if that makes sense. Like Sundance, I feel like there's a lot of heavy shit.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Ring ring. Who is that? We have a guest.
Who's at the door?
We have a guest.
You have a guest?
Hello.
Oh my goodness.
Hello. It's the devil. He has he has a word. Look at my new friend.
I love him.
And for those of you listening, well, you could see this if you subscribe to our Patreon and see the video.
Hey.
But I'll use my words to explain to you what this is because I'm kind. It is the Chatterer phone from Skinamarink, the creepy phone boy. That is like
him.
$10 on Etsy. Like
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, if you look it up now because I feel like they're gonna start skyrocketing in price because everyone wants one of these fucking things. I googled, so I tried. It took me a little bit because people were like, "What the hell?" It's the Chatterer phone from Fisher Price.
Phone. Okay.
And so when you pull it, like when you do that, when you pull it, its eyes move. See?
Oh no, that's horrifying.
So yeah, this is my new friend.
But I love him.
So do I. He's terrifying.
Are you gonna name him?
Kevin.
Kevin.
That's the kid's name in Skinamarink.
His name is Skinamarink.
Kevin is the kid's name in Skinamarink that this fucking thing tortures. That's why his name is Kevin. Anyway, so that's the first thing before we get into festivals. And then I had another before we jump in. Oh my god. It looks like someone chewed on this. Anyway, this is what you get for buying used toys online. And also, when I was trying to open it, I was like shaking the box and it was ringing a little bit. And I was like, this is the most haunted experience of my entire life. And Steve was laughing. He was like, why do you keep bringing weird toys into this house? I have like a couple like cursed looking dolls on my desk. So, anyway. And then transitioning to my dumb story that I remember this, like, before we talk about festivals. I was watching a TikTok about hair dye and, like, spray-on hair dye. And I had this memory unlocked of when I was a kid. And I went to Hot Topic and saw hair dye. And I was like, oh my god, I'm going to dye my hair at my friend's house. And my mom is like, I'm going to come home and have, like, my hair dyed. My hair was this color, wasn't bleached. I knew nothing about it. And so I bought this bottle, and I was like, fuck yeah, like, it's a temporary hair dye. Remember that for later. I was like, okay, cool. So, like, it'll stay in for a bit and then it'll wash out. And so we go to my friend's house being his dad's houseboat. So I'm in someone's giant houseboat with this bottle of hair dye in this tiny sink. And I'm like, oh yeah. And I pop off the top and it's a spray can. And I'm like, oh, how does this work? I thought temporary spray-on hair color was actually hair dye. And I spent 2 hours trying to dye my hair with temporary hair dye when it was literally just paint in a can.
Oh, no.
It's like the dumbest memory of all time, but I just remember like being so pissed I couldn't dye my hair and then realizing that it was like temporary like costume hair. It was costume like hair color. It wasn't even hair dye. And my friend was watching anime laughing at me, like, what are you doing wrong? And then we realized, I can't read. So that's Mary Bath's memory corner.
Back when I had hair, I remember deciding that I wanted to go strawberry blonde one time. And it was orange. I looked like a fucking pumpkin. I went to work the next day, and everyone at work was like, you look like a pumpkin.
Thanks. I'm aware. Wait, did you have a beard?
No.
Okay, so it's like you should have just dyed your beard and gone full jack-o'-lantern.
Might have had a goatee. Yeah, I was a goatee lad.
I feel like everyone has a good, terrible hair dye
I also
story.
did frosted tips, very briefly.
Purpurina, gay rite of passage and stories to die for. Spelled D-Y-E. On that note, speaking of gay rites of passage, let's talk about some movies from Sundance. This is going to be part 1 because we have watched so many good movies.
So many movies.
How
many did you say you've seen?
I've seen 16.
I've seen, I think, 18.
Yeah.
But 2 of them I watched while falling asleep on Ambien, and I barely remember them. They were going to expire. I was like, fuck, I gotta watch them.
I get it. Since we've watched so many, we're going to first talk about the Midnighters this episode. Yeah. Like, the specific, like, horror section of the Sundance Festival program. And then next week we'll talk about all the other really cool shit we saw. That is, like, maybe horror, maybe not. But yeah. I know that we're going to watch more movies before next time. I know we're still in the process. Yes. There we go. We're still in the process of watching movies. So we'll have even more time.
And there's some ones that aren't genre related that I really want to talk about. So,
yeah.
I think that will be our focus next week, as well as, Chucky, of course. But we also have Chucky tonight, and Chucky gets, it's fucked.
Thank God I watched all the movies. You're right. I wouldn't have gotten jack shit, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
All right. So let's just, because I think we've seen the same Midnight.
Yeah, I've seen all of them but one. There's one I haven't watched, and I'm sorry, I don't want to watch it. By the power of deduction, you'll know which one.
It's not great. Might have been the one that I fell asleep halfway through. What do we want to talk about first? Maybe the one that gets released today?
That is Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity
Alexander Skarsgård on a leash.
Cock. Just a lot more cock than I expected.
Cum. I was not expecting a cum shot.
It is a juicy movie. Yeah, so this is Brandon Cronenberg's third movie, arguably perhaps his most straightforward movie, where Alexander Skarsgård plays a failed author who is on vacation with his rich wife. They are on the fictional island of Latolka. They're out, and which is like kind of branded as almost like a communist country. It's never really gone into, but some of the iconography I kind of like big like Eastern Bloc country, but like Eastern Bloc vibes.
Yeah.
But they're on this beautiful resort for the rich, and they're in a compound, and the compound is protected by like super tall fences and barbed wire, and you're not supposed to leave the compound.
Yeah.
Basically, like the locals are barbarians, and you can't leave. And then, of course, they meet a couple, Mia Goth. It plays the glamorous, scary Gabby. They go on a little joyride out of the compound. A manslaughter act happens, and they discover that murder / any crime is like punishable by death. And then they find out if you're rich enough, you can just buy a body double, like a clone. It's not like totally, it's like very kind of vague about what's happening, about like what exactly is happening, because the cloning sequence we get is just like him standing in like some liquid, and then he kind of just sees shit for a bit. It looks like
really bad diarrhea.
It does. He's just,
is what it looked like.
And then he gets a double, and then shit goes south from there. Violent and hot, sorta.
Very erotic.
Very erotic.
Even when it's like horrifying, there's still it kind of reminded me in parts of like Brandon Cronenberg's take on Eyes Wide Shut, with like the man going on like a hedonistic, nightmarish journey through sex and violence and orgies and weird shit happening, and then hopefully trying to come out on the other side. Like, it reminds me a bit of that.
Yeah, it's...
But sci-fi.
Yeah, ish. It's another one of those, like, soft sci-fi movies in a way where it's, like, not predominant. It's, like...
really about the
it's,
sci-fi.
Like, it is, like, predominantly sci-fi, but not really. Like, it's not, like... It's, like, obviously...
It's not about...
cloning machines and things like that. It's more, like, how people abuse that kind of... Not even technology, because it's, like, a secret. Like a secret like about them having it. I don't know, it's very strange, but I love that. And like I don't need to compare, but it does have Crimes of the Future vibes with like the setting and kind of like the vibes about what's happening. And like I know that like comparing them, oh, you haven't seen it yet?
I need to.
So I really enjoyed it. Alexander Skarsgård's kind of the little wiener in it too. He's like a little bit of like a sad little pathetic worm, and I love it.
I love him. I love him so much. And I'll tell you, Mia Goth is unhinged in this.
Jamesy!
She just approaches this role and just tears it apart. I was not expecting this performance from her. Like, great in X, great in Pearl, but this is like...
Yeah, this is like...
another level. This is fucking unhinged in the best way.
So I interviewed her about this, and she said it was a really hard role because the character is so opposite of her, like, in all aspects. And I think in, like, X and Pearl, there's, like, I think she can... there seems to be, like, a more kind of personable side, but then with Gabby, like, she's just a full-on, like, sociopath.
Yes.
It's incredible. I love it. We have a beautiful female villain who just loves to jack dudes off and kill. Good for her.
The feminist agenda.
It is. I'm gonna bleach my eyebrows now. But yeah, so if you can see that in theaters, it's out today. I do kind of want to see it in theaters. I feel like it'd be a wild experience in a theater. So I might go see it again.
I agree. I don't think it's as like heady as
It's not. I think it, like...
Possessor, it's very straightforward.
Yeah, it's very much, like, very obviously being like, look, the rich use... like, the super rich use people, and even if you think you're in their inner circle, you're just a fucking plaything. Like, it's super straightforward, but I think he does it in such a cool way visually.
Yeah.
And, like, to, like, a very big extreme that it's just, like, hell yeah. I'll take that.
Not everything could be Possessor. Not everything should be, so...
No. Sometimes I just want a straightforward, ultra-violent movie.
And speaking of a straightforward, ultra-violent movie, let's talk about Talk to Me.
Oh my god.
Talk to the hand, literally.
I quit. This one I think is perhaps my favorite of the festival so far.
Okay.
I think. As of the current situation we are talking, it is my favorite of the festival.
I think it's my favorite of the Midnighters.
Okay. It's definitely my favorite of the Midnighters. A strong cast of contenders for Midnighters, but this one is like a fucking lean... Was it lean? Yeah, it's lean. The lean, mean horror machine that is... It's from Australia. We love Australian horror. We have a couple of those, actually, to talk about. But basically... This movie follows a group of teenagers who have come into possession of an embalmed hand of a psychic / medium, which is like it sounds so ridiculous, but the way they frame it is really interesting. So, and it kind of goes viral, like in their area, where like people can hold the hand and they become a conduit for a spirit, but they have some rules to make sure like bad things don't happen in terms of like what it means to your body to be possessed for longer than I think like 60 seconds.
90 seconds. Yeah.
But so people are taking videos of this at parties. Like, it's a party trick. It's not just like, it's funny to them.
The new drugs.
It's like exactly. And people like want to
Their eyes get dilated.
Yep.
The black parts of their eye just like take over their entire eye. They get possessed by the spirits. And it's like it's a parlor trick. It's like, for them, it's something fun to do.
Yep. And so, but they take it too far, as you can expect. But when they take it too far, it's fucked up. Like, it's like, the story is relatively simple, but it is mean. Like, it's
it's very mean.
And it's scary. Like, this is the scariest movie of the festival. By far. And I love that. It's not...
about it at one point,
Yeah, exactly. I did too.
and I gasped at some of the self-inflicted violence, shall we say, at some points.
I know.
Just like really, I was like, oh my god, like this movie came with a warning in front about like blood and violence. And the last time that I saw a movie at a festival that did that, it was The Sadness. And this is not at the Sadness level.
Yeah.
However, there is a lot of red and there is a lot of horrifying moments in this.
Happening to teenagers / like
Yes.
people who are like early teenagers and who look like teenagers. But Josh Korngut described it as like punk Australian Insidious.
Okay. I could see that. I was feeling like Flatliners for the social media crowd.
Yeah, that is very much it. But yeah, that's been my one of my favorites so far. But then there's another Australian Midnight.
I think it's being bought by A24 potentially.
Yeah, they're in
too.
talks to buy it, which makes sense.
Talks.
And I hope it gets a theatrical, because this is a really
This needs to be a theatrical release.
theatrical. It's a good movie to see with people. Like, I want to see it on a screen with a bunch of people, because like some really fucking good moments and like good jump scares. Yeah, I love it.
It's gnarly.
But then there's another Australian film that I unfortunately did not like as much. Run Rabbit Run, directed by Dana Reed. What did you think of this one?
I think Sarah Snook is very good in this movie.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, I think that's about the consensus that the internet has had. That she's incredible, but the material is not great.
Some people...
And Netflix bought it, which is like, I kind of got a feeling before I even watched it. Sorry, but like Netflix horror movies have a reputation now. They don't buy the good, the best shit anymore.
So I've heard some people call this boring. I actually was never bored watching it. I really was like...
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I was on board with what was happening. I don't know. I don't feel like it really did anything new.
No, so it's from the producers of The Babadook. And that's so obvious as you watch it. It's like...
Oh, absolutely.
Your typical mom and daughter have a weird relationship and something happens and there's trauma and a creepy kid and mom drama and dead siblings.
A
and
rabbit shows up. The kid starts dressing like with a rabbit face that doesn't have a mouth, and there's horrible drawings being made. Like, it's hitting all of these very familiar beats. And it doesn't really do anything new to it.
It's just kind of boring. It's not boring. I just think it's like... There's a lot of cool stuff at the beginning that they just let go of. Like, I thought there was some really cool things to say about, like, estranged mother relationships and what happens when that person gets dementia. Because, like, my greatest fear is when my estranged dad gets older and I have to, like... I'm his only kid. So, like, that fucked me up at the beginning. And I was like, okay, cool, we're going to keep going with this. And then they just, like, drop it completely for, like, a kind of typically boring... narrative, to which I say just watch Lake Mungo. If you want something like this, like, fucking watch Lake Mungo, because that's what this is trying to be. Like, that's all I could think about was, like, this is trying to be a version of Lake Mungo. Whether they knew it or not, obviously the Babadook too, and they just, like, didn't know what to do with it at all.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
It's unfortunate. It is.
But, like, it's just not...
Another movie that has like a mother-daughter relationship that I thought did work was Birth/Rebirth, which I really dug. It's produced by, at least one of the producers on it was Molly Elfman, who did Next Exit last year, that I really loved and was on my top list. She's producing this. But you can see some of the similar team, because Ariel Marks does the score for this. Ariel Marks also did the score for Next Exit, and she also did the score for Shiva Baby. And
Ariel Marks is a fucking really star. Good. I'm obsessed with her.
She really is.
Her music is
I would love to chat with her. But yeah, so this was directed by Laura Moss and then co-written by Laura Moss and Brendan J. O'Brien. It is basically a gender flipped Frankenstein story in a way, of like this scientist that is trying to bring people back from the dead, and there is a prenatal nurse, is that
like obstetrics nurse?
Yeah, whose daughter ends up getting sick. This is the one part that didn't really gel with me. She gets sick and dies very quickly.
She had bacterial meningitis. That's why.
I know, but it was like overnight. Is it that quick?
It can be, I think.
Is it? Okay. I was just like, wow, that's
medicine.
like...
But yeah, it can be really bad. Really, it can get really bad really fast.
She was fine, and the next day she was dead.
Yeah, I think that's actually possible.
Jesus. Okay.
Fact check me if I'm wrong, though, please. I'm not a doctor.
And then the body does not make it to its final place because the mortician has taken it and has brought it back to life. And then the mom finds out, and
oh yeah, the mom finds out, and like, yeah. But I was gonna say, the mortician played by Marin Ireland from The Dark and the Wicked.
Yes, so good in this.
She's incredible.
She's in 2 movies at Sundance this year.
She is. Okay, thank you to Purpurina for looking up people dying in die in as little as a few hours from bacterial meningitis. All right, cool.
Okay.
Sick.
There we go.
But
thank you.
Thank you so much. As if we couldn't have Googled it, but that's not fun. But yeah, so Marin Ireland is Dr. Rose Casper, who is the pathologist but works in the morgue, and then Julie Reyes plays Celie. Is that her name? Judy. Judy Reyes plays Celie, who is the mother.
Yes.
And they start forming this kind of like tentative... It's like, it never falls into friendship. And I think that's what's really cool about this movie, is that it doesn't try to fall into like, they fall in love or like they become good friends. Like, they're always at a distance. And I like how it kind of keeps it cold, because it really then kind of exemplifies the growth / changes in both characters quite a bit. I don't want to give too much away, but like, I love this movie. I think it's incredible.
In a way, there's sort of like, there's sort of like mothers for the kid, like co-parenting almost in a way with the kid, but it's like, it's held at arm's distance, and I think that it's like almost like a marriage. I'm using that in quotations of like convenience in terms of like the
Odd Couple comparison is one that people keep making, including myself in my review, because it is very much like, okay, these two very different people come together and like live under the same roof and have to kind of like learn how to work with each other in a weird scenario. But because again, like, it is a pretty like familiar premise, but it's done in a really interesting way that it isn't like trying to force emotions on them in a way.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Well, and they have very different motives for
exactly.
it. One is like excited about recreating life. The other's like, my daughter literally died and I wasn't there for that. Yeah. And she's like, I want my baby back. So like, there's completely different motives going on here, and there's like a tension between the two of them. And I really liked it. This movie really, really worked for me. Me
too. This is Talk to Me and this are like my faves.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But then let's talk about more motherhood with a very different kind of movie, In My Mother's Skin, which I also really loved, but it's fucked up and deeply upsetting, more than I expected.
Yeah. So this one, I think an easy comparison is to compare it to Pan's Labyrinth in a way. Yeah. It's less fantastical and more deeply fucked up, I would say, than like Pan's Labyrinth. Although Pan's Labyrinth has a gut punch of an ending. It's more it's in the Philippines, World War II.
Japanese occupation.
Japanese occupation. A young girl. This family is in this like manor, the secluded manor, where a treasure might be hidden in the house and people want it. Her father, this girl's father, goes into town and he's talking about coming back and he doesn't. Then her mom gets sick and she has a younger brother, and so she goes out to try to find some solution, and she comes across a lady in a dilapidated hut, ends up summoning flesh-eating fairies
that look like cicadas.
Yeah. And it's gross.
It's gross.
And sad.
It's so sad. It's dark. Production design is awesome. With the design of like I was calling the being the queen of the cicadas, because they have like this really cool headpiece that looks like it has cicada wings coming out of the top. And I think something that I really liked about this as well is like it's a lower budget movie, and so what it does, instead of like showing you everything, it puts a lot of work into the sound design, I think, to make things really gross. So even though you're not seeing a lot of blood and gore in certain parts, not to say that there isn't it, but like they're really careful with how they do that. So, and it's gross. Like some of the scenes where you just hear things happening, it's like, ugh.
I really dug it. On a more like upbeat note though, Polite Society.
I loved this movie. It was so fun. I liked it so much more than I expected.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so it's like basically like a Jane Austen movie, but like in a contemporary Pakistani family, where the younger sister Rhea is training to be a stunt person. Her sister, who lives at home, is an artist and an art school dropout, and like doesn't have any prospects. Her mother and father like want her to get married. You know, like it's got that typical like looking at like South Asian, like Pakistani family dynamics in a contemporary setting. And at first it is kind of like one of those coming of age things of like, oh, you hate your sister's fiance and you're trying to do anything you can to like foil the plot. And then there's a fucking twist in the middle that takes it to like full action movie, full action movie. And it's so fun. It's like the perfect action movie for like the whole family. And I don't mean that in like it's a kid movie, but it's like a mature action film that takes kids seriously, so like adults will really love it, but it's not like super gory and like super heavy. And it balances that really well into something that's like really fucking fun, and everyone's so good in it.
Yeah, everyone is incredibly good in it. And Priya Kansara plays Rhea, the main character, and she is just a ball of energy, and she pretty much gives the movie it's I mean, it's not to say it again, but it's energy. Like she's very charismatic, and she carries this movie. I will say that I think that some of the energy dies down in the like transition to the third act.
I think that they take it too long. They take the whole like
I was ready for it to be over at a certain point, and then it like comes back and it gets that energy again for the climax. But it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like in some ways reminded me a little bit of Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
In the way that like it has like a kinetic feel to it. There's a lot of like stylish flourishes where it's like when she fights someone, it's the verses, and it's like almost like a fighter video game presented. So it has that kind of like feel to it that I think people will remember from Scott Pilgrim. It's not as frenetic as that, or is like outlandish in a lot of ways. I mean, there's some outlandish parts in it, but I don't know. It has that feel to it, just in a more indie type feel.
Yeah, I do. I mean? I agree that like the first half to like 2/3 is a little bit too long. I think they save a lot of really cool stuff for the end that I wish had been like more consistent throughout the beginning. But yeah, regardless, I had a ton of fun. This was a good palate cleanser for everything else that like we were watching, because good lord, there's some heavy shit. And then I think is this the last one for the Midnighters? Speaking of heavy, we're finishing off this discussion of Sundance with Jacqueline Castell's queer werewolf movie, My Animal, that I really wanted to like more, unfortunately. We
had talked offline, and it reminds me a bit of like Boys Don't Cry dropped into a werewolf movie.
And that is exactly what it is.
That's like the easiest comparison.
Well, yeah, because it's like, I mean, look, it's got really incredible performances by Bobby Salvor Menuez and then Amanda Stenberg. Both queer, non-binary actors who are playing queer characters who are like trying to figure their shit out. I think it's got incredible like 90s vibes. There's a lot of like gay lighting, a lot of like beautiful like soft queer yearning in this movie. Like it's a really good gay drama, and then the werewolf stuff kind of feels tacked on a little bit. I could see where they were going, but it just misses the mark. Like, it just fizzles out in a way that's really disappointing. Like, it feels like it's building to something really cool, and it kind of just, like, a little bit to me. Which makes me sad.
When it ended, I was like, it's over. Like, I
know, I was the same way.
It just does not... It sets up, like, this house of cards, and then it just sort of, like, whiffs it at the very end.
Yep.
And... I don't know. I feel like if the idea of a werewolf is such a powerful metaphor for like otherness or for trying to conceal something inside of you, and I don't, you add that with queerness, and on one hand I'm like, okay, I get it. You're conflating being a closeted queer person in the 90s with werewolf and lycanthropy. I get it. It's just, there's all these little pieces there, and I just don't think they threaded them together very well. It's a much better directed movie than I would say a written movie.
I would agree with that. I think I would definitely agree with that. Because, like, it seemed like a queer, like I said, a queer drama that they were like, oh, fuck, this would be a cool werewolf movie. But, like, didn't think about how to connect those two things together. Mm-hmm. Which is a bummer.
Yeah. It is a bummer, because there's a lot of really cool ideas in here. I just don't think it came together very well.
Yeah. Well, let's do a sharp pivot to not Sundance.
Yes.
To our penultimate discussion of season 1 of Chucky with episodes 5 and 6, where things, like we talked about last time, things break bad even fucking worse.
Yeah, like I told you last week, to strap on / strap in. The last 4 episodes of this season just get brutal.
You fucking think? Jesus Christ, we lose 2 mothers. 2 parents.
2 mothers in a single episode.
Yes. What the fuck?
In a very vicious way.
Both of them.
Particularly, so we find out, that Junior's mom has cancer, stage 4 cancer, that she's been keeping from the family. And then by episode 6, where she has decided that she's not going to take chemo, and she has told her family, and she's just going to, see whatever happens. And Chucky fucking pushes her out of a window. And not only that, she falls on Junior's car, and her face goes through the fucking windshield in front of fucking Junior. I'm like, you're fucking mean, Don Mancini. This was fucking mean.
But then to add insult to fucking injury, you see something fall in the car next to it, like, oh cool, that's her. And then it's like, nah bitch, it's not her.
Nah
like,
bitch.
As if these fucking kids haven't had enough trauma. Like, here, have your mom, who like just told you she wasn't gonna get treatment for her cancer. And she fucking smashes, and like, I'd be like, you know what? I'm good. Reset. Just hit the reset button. Just leave.
And then Devin's mom gets pushed down the stairs and breaks her fucking neck.
Breaks her fucking neck. Like, that's like the worst thing about this series, and in a good way, is that like the only time that adults believe them is like right before they get savagely murdered.
Before they get murdered.
You're like, well, I guess there's nothing else I can fucking do about that. But then on top of these like absolutely grisly murders, and Devin like finding out about Chucky and starting to put the pieces together with like all of our cameos / characters like start coming in from past stuff. So we have we get to see the backstory between Chucky and Tiffany. Oh my god, Chucky and Tiffany, and how they fucking met. Psychos. Goddamn psychos. With Fiona.
Psychos in love.
Fiona Dourif playing her dad.
Adding more to the gender bending queerness of this, where you have like her playing Charles Lee Ray, Mackinac Tiffany in the past, and then you have Nika, Mackinac Tiffany, as both Nika and Chucky in the present. It's like a sapphic dream.
It's my sapphic dream.
Fucked up sapphic
oh
dream.
yeah, like
as we'll get to soon.
Most chaotic timeline. It's very much like, but yeah.
But then we also have fucking Andy Barclay showing up and Kyle.
They're like fucking like it's like fucking Mulder and Scully like traveling the country trying to end the reign of Chucky. It's so funny when they fucking shoot the doll. Oh god, and
they're just standing over them almost in like a Quentin Tarantino-esque, like aiming down and just unloading like their bullets into the doll.
Andy!
Fuck you, Andy.
It's so good. It's just, I love how they're folding it all together now. Like, they really have done a good job setting it all up, like, not trying to rush into fan service, I think. Because I think a lot of shows, like, you know, based on these kinds of properties can really try to be like, we have to give the fan service. But it's like Chucky himself is already, I feel like, enough fan service. And, like, having these other characters come in when it actually logically makes sense rather than trying to, like, shoehorn it in, I think is, like, a testament to, like, the pacing and the writing of the show.
It reminded me a bit of Curse of Chucky, how it's, like, it almost feels like it could be a reboot.
Yeah.
And then eventually, in that movie, the skin comes off of the doll and you find out that, no, it is a continuation. Yeah. And then other characters start coming in from the past. Mm-hmm. And I think this one does this incredibly well, because we are now, you know, I think this, they start to show up at like episode 6 is kind of where,
yes,
like a little bit in 5.
A little bit. I think it was a little bit in 5, and then it goes into 6 is when we really see, especially the two of them, like in real life, because we get introduced to Tiffany as Jennifer Tilly / Jennifer Tilly as Tiffany as Jennifer Tilly. Yes, that's it. I was trying to think of like the order of operations here, but yes. So we meet her, and we see Nika, who. Here's what fucks me up in this fucking shit. How is it's like he is in Nika, but then he's also in the doll, and I understand that like we have split things up in Cult of Chucky. But, like, in what God's, like, where are the consequences with the voodoo being that he's talking to? Like, I know that this is, like, so, like, nitpicky and dumb, but all I can think of is whatever cosmic shit you're praying to, just, like, yeah, fucking do whatever you want. Like, that's awesome. Good for him for finding that, because I feel like in most things there's consequences for, like, constantly using that power. And, like, I mean, good for you. It just, like, boggles the mind that it's like, yeah, just fucking fine. Just split it up.
Oh man, I cannot wait until more happens with this.
I just don't understand how it works. Like, who's the real Chucky? You know what I mean? Are they all the real Chucky? Is Nika the real Chucky? Like, who's the real Chucky, man? Who's the real Charles Lee Ray?
I mean, I think that is a question that deserves like a joint and just sort of sitting back and being like, yeah, man.
Maybe I was stoned when I had that thought, okay? But like, I think it's a valid question.
It is a valid question. Absolutely.
I understand that this is a fucking show franchise about a haunted doll.
About a haunted doll. Real Chucky's friends we made along the way. Thank you, perfect.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway,
my favorite part about this though is here's how you make the best alarm system known to man. Step 1, find the creepiest doll you can find. Step 2, attach wire to it to all of the doors so that it will turn on its own. And then step 3, burn everything to the ground because fuck that. But like this doll that they have set up in the middle of the room with like wires attached to windows and doors so that the doll will like turn if Chucky is here. I'm like, that's creepy as fuck. That's creepier than Chucky.
It's true. Oh, and then we didn't, Jake and Devin had their first little smoochy smooch.
They had a little smoochy
Gay
smooch.
Love. I love their relationship. It's so cute. I love that they're like,
very cute.
There's obviously homophobia in some parts of it, but like, it's not like, after Jake's dad dies, like, it kind of isn't as like queer bashing, and it is a little bit more like, you guys like each other. And I like that we're not trying to like make this all about like, the gay kids, you know? That makes me happy that in this day and age we can make a show about queers young baby queers especially that are like, yeah, having a hard time, but like can also have these relationships without being constantly ridiculed. It's just nice to see it, you know?
It is nice. We've also talked about like the needle drop song moments in this.
Heads will
and
roll.
the end of episode 5, heads will roll. Yes.
I was like,
oh my god.
This show is everything to me. The fucking like that. I mean, god damn.
Bringing in the yeahs with heads will roll as
god.
a fucking head rolls.
The fucking principal gets
and it's a split
decapitated.
diopter.
Oh.
With like the head in the front and then the reactions in behind. It's just like
It's just so good. The show is incredible. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just so good. So much happened. There's 2 more episodes left.
The pacing
is really good. I've never felt. This is one of the first shows in a long time that I've been like, oh, I've never actually like kind of felt bored. I feel like it's moving along really well.
It's just constantly moving. It's adding complications.
Yeah.
It's changing the script.
Yeah.
It is doing things that television doesn't do. We had 2 moms die in a single episode, and not to spoil it was gonna get worse. Like, there is actual stakes here in this teen-centric show about a fucking 40-year-old doll.
Weird.
Like, it's good. It's so good.
So good.
It's so good.
So we are watching the last 2 episodes, and I'm just so nervous for what are going to happen. I know that our 3 main babies survive, but at what cost is kind of where, like, my brain's at. Like, at what cost for these poor little babies? Because I know things break real bad. But, anywho's it. Yeah.
It's vicious.
So,
yeah. So next week we're going to continue talking about Sundance, because there's a lot of movies that are not genre or genre adjacent that I really am excited to talk about. And like I said, I'm going to probably watch, I think, 2 more movies tomorrow night that I'm hoping will be really good. So
next week we are talking to Paul Owens, the writer and director of Landlocked, and he brought with him Bram Stoker's Dracula. And as you can imagine, go to horny jail is very much a theme of the episode. Shocking no one.
You know, this last week it was horny ducks, and this week it's horny
I completely
everyone.
forgot that I talked about that corkscrew duck penis thing, and I am so glad to be reminded of it, because I'm glad that my weird animal penis knowledge can be utilized for good and also evil.
And also evil, yes. We had recorded that episode a while ago, because we had an opportunity to. And when I was editing it, I was laughing hysterically at some of the places the conversation went. And yes, duck penis, corkscrew, condoms. How'd that work?
It was an incredible experience. So go listen to that episode and then tune into our episode with Paul Owens.
And watch Landlocked this weekend.
Watch Landlocked this weekend. It is so good. Check it out. It's like found footage, hybrid found footage, mumble gore, that good shit. So listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. Did you attend Sundance virtually or have tickets for anything and watched a film? Do you have any highly anticipated films coming out of Sundance? You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter. You know where, at MBMcAndrews.
I'm a Gaily Dreadful. And
follow the podcast, at Scarred Podcast. Duh.
And don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And, if you want to help us out some more, join us on Patreon. You could be watching, you'd be able to see the Skinamarink. Kevin, you'd be able to see my gay and wonderful hat.
The Skinamarink.
The Skinamarink.
He is the Skinamarink.
He is the Skinamarink.
Thank you to Eric Power for music. Thank you to Sean Keller. Nope. Why? Why do I switch them?
I was like, that does not sound right.
I know. I was like, I said it. And I was like, thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. Most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is the briefing room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.